Welcome to the Expert Edge. This is the show where we bring on experts in their fields of health and wellness practice, hear their stories, and learn what they see working in the field of diabetes reversal and prevention. And so I'm happy to introduce today's expert, Dr. Steve Hughlett. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
And today we're going to be talking about how Dr. Steve flipped from Big Pharma to an alternative. And so we're going to be taking a look at that. But before we do that, let me give you just a little bit of background on him. He's a doctor of pharmacy with over 35 years of experience. He earned his doctorate from the University of Missouri in Kansas City and completed a pediatric residency at the Medical University of South Carolina. He spent 29 years as a clinical pharmacist at a 500-bed hospital in southern Missouri. Inspired by the transformative power of nutrition on health, he ended up taking an early retirement so that he could focus on promoting disease prevention and reversal
Mhm.
through nutrition instead of relying on medications with all of their extensive side effects. So, along with his wife, Steve is dedicated to helping others embrace true health through nutritional education and looking at their lifestyle instead of pharmaceuticals. So, as we kind of dive into that today, tell us a little bit about what really got you started with your interest in health and lifestyle, enough to actually have you retire early from your lifetime career. What was that turning point for you?
Yeah, I know that was crazy too. I mean, I never saw this coming. Um, like I said, I've been, Dr. Pharmacist for 29 years. So I worked the same hospital. The first half that I worked there, I was a pediatric pharmacist. And then the last half, I was the supervisor of the second and third shift. So while I was a pediatric pharmacist, we did annual programs, pediatric programs. So all the physicians, nurses, all the healthcare people in the area, they would all come to the hospital once a year, and we'd have a whole full day of pediatric seminars. And I had spoken like about four of those while I was still in pediatrics. After I got out of pediatrics and I was a supervisor, I didn't speak anymore for about 10 years. And then for some reason, about 5 years ago, they called me and asked me if I would speak again. I said, sure. I said, what do you want me to talk on? And they said, childhood obesity. And I thought, sure, I'll do that. And so I just kind of put together real quick, here's, obesity, if you want to lose weight, you gotta, decrease calories and exercise more and talk about the food pyramid and all this stupid stuff that I found out was absolutely ridiculous. And I thought, well, just for the heck of it, and I put the whole talk together. I had my slides and everything. I thought just for the heck of it, I'll go back and see if there's anything new in the literature. And that's when my eyes got opened. I found out there is so much nutrition information out there that's being hidden from us. And type 2 diabetes, how to treat type 2 diabetes, everything just got flipped on its head.
Mm.
And I started getting it. That's when I went ahead and I totally redid my talk, went and gave the talk, and everybody that came to the talk, they come up afterwards said, you got to write a book. Said, this is stuff that we've never heard anything about. So
Mm.
that's what I did. My wife took the transcript from my talk. She sent it in. It kind of gave a baseline to the book. So I just went in and just started filling in all the other stuff I wanted to and wrote the book. And then she said she wanted me to do more. So I get to more people. So I did podcasts. But all that basically what it did was I found out that we were not helping anybody with medications. And it really got sickening as I started walking into the hospital and feeling that we were not helping people there. And so once the book came out and the podcast came out and people started contacting me and asking me questions, they started losing all their weight. They started getting off all their diabetic medication. I mean, everything. Their blood pressure was going down. Everything was working. I thought this is it. This makes sense. So I put in early retirement and thought I am helping way more people by talking to them about nutrition than I ever did as a pharmacist, just sitting there treating symptoms. And so that's why I got out of it. And I would never look back. It is
Mm.
I've been having so much fun helping these people get off medications they thought they were going to be on forever. But that's what started it is the talk.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And you're right about the amount of evidence that has come out in more recent years about food as medicine, the way that many different simple aspects of our life have a very profound impact on our personal health.
Oh.
And
Huge.
as I work with people with diabetes, many of them are on medications and many of them are really wanting to get off. But
Hmm.
from a pharmacist standpoint, can you share with us how do most diabetes medications treat symptoms while actually making the underlying root causes worse?
The the problem with diabetes is the medical community teaches everybody that diabetes is a problem of high blood sugar. And it is not a problem of high blood sugar. High blood sugar that's the symptom of
Mm,
diabetes. Diabetes is actually insulin resistance. And then this goes a lot deeper. We won't have to go into that. But then they came up with this little term pre-diabetes, which is a marketing term to get more people on diabetic drugs. Pre-diabetes happens for like 10, 20, 30 years before you ever see high glucose. It's when you're constantly eating stuff that causes your insulin to be high all throughout the day, every single day, 10, 20, 30 years. And eventually you're making each cell individually become insulin resistant. And insulin resistant just means it is so stuffed with fat from all the glucose being turned into fat that the cells can't hold it anymore. So that's what insulin resistance is. There's nothing wrong with insulin, nothing wrong with cells, nothing wrong with pancreas. Your fat cells are just too stuffed. And then you start stuffing all the fat around your organs, and that's when you get into all the diabetes problems, with all the organ failure.
mm,
So the problem is, and people ask this all the time. It's like, why did my great grandparents why could they eat potatoes and meat and all this stuff all through the day and not get sick? It's because that's healthy. That's God made food. That's the way we're supposed to eat real meat, real vegetables. But what we're doing now is we're eating all this chemical based food. Plant based food, animal based food. That's God made. Chemical based food with these ultra processed carbs that they do and all the box, bottle, bag, and can with the labels of all the chemicals on there. That's what our grandparents did not do. They
mm.
did not sit around and eat this stuff every single day, all through the day, every 2, 3 hours. That stuff it's made to keep you hungry. It's a business. But food companies and drug companies are businesses. And the way you have businesses,
Mm.
you have more people keep buying your products. So if you're a food company, serve them stuff that is giving them no nutrition whatsoever, so their body's going to keep craving you to be hungry, and give them stuff that blocks their hunger signals. So you're constantly hungry all the time. But what they're not telling everybody is while they're doing all that, so you keep eating, the type of food they give you is keeping your insulin levels raised the entire time. And that's what's killing us. That's what's the difference between our great grandparents who ate God-made food and the people right now who eat all this man-made chemical-based food. And it truly is killing us in so many different ways.
Mm. You brought out several important points here, I think,
Oh,
and the
that's right. I never
difference
answered
between,
them.
it's all right, in talking about what's different between now and our grandparents' day. And you brought up one of the things, for example, is people are eating all day long now. If you think about 120 years ago when people were on the farm, they'd get up, they'd have a big breakfast,
Hmm.
and it might not even be things that we're thinking are really healthy today, but it would be a big breakfast, but then they would be going out and working. They wouldn't be
Yep.
like snacking every couple of hours. They'd be out in the field or milking the cows or whatever, and they would have that gap between meals. So
Yep.
no
Yep.
snacks. Then they'd have another good meal, and they were very, very active.
Right.
And those are two things that just by themselves, I think, make a huge difference in where people are today versus then. And
Oh,
that's not
definitely.
even getting into like what how our food's been changed and made in
Right.
factories now, but just looking at the regularity of meal times
Hmm.
and looking at their exercise levels, those things really do make a difference in your metabolism.
Hmm.
And so
Yep.
they weren't setting themselves up for disease the way that most Americans are today.
Right.
You brought one more thing out that I wanted to mention, and that was how what they were eating was usually what they could raise or somebody else could raise,
Exactly.
grow in their garden, whatever that was. It wasn't food that was created in a laboratory.
Right. Yep.
And, I don't think people really realize how much food today is is the product of chemical processes
Yep.
in laboratories and food factories that really end up with a product that is very, very different
Oh, yeah.
from some of the original ingredients that might have gone into it. I mean, like, I don't know how long it was before I realized and I learned that, you know, French fries, just take that for a simple example.
Hmm.
If I want to make French fries in my kitchen, I take a potato and I cut it
Hmm.
into strips, and then I will bake it or do whatever to brown it and make it crisp. Whereas many commercial French fries today are like ground up potatoes that are shaped into French fries and then fried. I mean, it's and then in that whole process, they're adding flavor additives.
Yep.
They're,
Yep.
they're doing other things to it to make them more addictive, but in no case are they making them more healthy,
Oh no, no.
right? So they're not like adding any nutrition to the food when they do
You
this.
you you can tell that when you find French fries in a car you're getting ready to sell that have been in there for 5 years and they look exactly the same. Fungus and mold don't even grow on these things, on these French fries. It's
Mm,
like if
mm.
bacteria and funguses can't grow on this stuff, do you really think it's a nutrient that your body wants? I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Oh, it is.
And I didn't answer your question. Your question is why do diabetic medications make it worse? And that goes back to what we were talking about. The whole thing is insulin. I mean,
Mm,
if I wanted to say one sentence that would cure almost every health problem you have is keep your insulin levels low. Because
mhm,
if you keep your insulin levels low, that means you're not eating the kind of stuff that keep your insulin levels high all the time, which causes the inflammation, the sugar, and all that.
mhm,
But what happens is when you keep your insulin levels low, and this is a fact, and I can explain exactly how this happens, but when your insulin levels are high, all you can do is stuff fat in your fat cells. High insulin tells your liver to convert glucose into triglycerides, and high insulin tells your body to store those triglycerides in your fat cells, expecting that there's going to be time that your insulin levels come low, and that's when you force your body to burn the fat out of your fat cells. So if you keep your insulin levels low, you will constantly be burning the fat out of your fat cells for your energy source, like God made us to do, and you just have a little bit of glucose stores in your liver for your fight or flight. That's how we're supposed to happen: is eat, fill up our fat stores, then go for a period where you don't eat, whatever that is. We eat twice a day. We'll eat like around 2 o'clock and then eat around 6 o'clock. But the whole reason is that all the rest of the time you're keeping your insulin levels low. That's what is causing diabetes. You keep your insulin levels high, you stuff your fat cells so they're so full that they can't do anything else. So now they stuff around your organs, and now you have problems. So how the diabetic drugs work, they don't even tell physicians you're looking at insulin levels because my wife got her own insulin level. It took $15. She got on the computer. She ordered her own lab. She has no medical background. She's a housewife and a mother and wonderful at both. But she was able to do it. $15, got the lab. Somebody gave her a script. She went and had her blood drawn. In 1 week, she knew exactly what her insulin level was. $15. It was nothing. That's what we should be doing. But since the drug companies are telling the medical people, because they're the ones who train the physicians and everything, all by drug companies, they tell them look at sugar. The way all the diabetic medications work, they either work by stimulating your pancreas to produce more insulin, when the problem is too much insulin in the first place, or
mhm.
they make your cells more sensitive to the insulin, which insulin is the problem in the first place. So what they're doing is keeping your insulin levels even higher than your body wants them to be. They force them higher, which means you're forcing more fat into your fat cells, which you're just kicking the can down the line because now all of a sudden you're getting bigger and bigger. And anybody who gives insulin to everybody knows when you take insulin or diabetic drugs, you do get bigger
Mhm.
because the problem's getting worse. So that's where I think it's
Mm.
not not the best thing to do to lie to people just so you can sell more drugs and make their diabetes worse. And that's why if this stuff was working, why would our diabetes rates be skyrocketing? In the 80s and 90s, they didn't come up with one single new diabetic drug. We only had two classes and seven drugs until
Mm.
they came up with the A1C and the pre-diabetes telling everybody, which all of that was just trying to get them to have more drugs. And now they have more people that are getting diabetic. So now they went from in the late 90s, 97, they went from only have two classes of drugs, diabetic drugs, making up seven medications. And now they have six different classes that make up 34 different medications. So just since they started telling everybody that a pre-diabetes is 5.7 to 6.4, which it's not. Pre-diabetes means you've had high insulin levels for decades, even though your glucose levels look fine. So once they started telling everybody that, now all of a sudden they've got all these people are getting more and more. They've come up with a new diabetic medication every single year since then. To where before that, they weren't going to come up with any more diabetic drugs because they said there wasn't enough people who had diabetes. was one reason. And the other reason, because all the studies show that just because you lower blood glucose has nothing to do with cardiovascular health or anything else, because raising high blood glucose your body doesn't want. But if you quit eating, the only way you have high blood glucose is you eat it. You either get stressed out and your pancreas puts out insulin, your cortisol stimulates your liver to put glucose in your system so you can have the fight or flight. But then you're supposed to get rid of that stress, get rid of that fight or flight situation. Glucose comes down, insulin comes down, and you start feeding out of your fat cells again. That's what's supposed to happen. But now we keep eating all this stuff all through the day. We keep our insulin levels high the whole time. We stuffing our fat cells the whole time, and then you get diabetes. So they give you drugs that keep your insulin levels high, and it's
a vicious cycle, isn't it?
It's a horrible vicious cycle. It is, and everybody thinks they're doing good. They want to do good. They actually told me, I asked them, I actually asked the diabetic people. I know I'm probably getting off of what you wanted to talk
No,
about.
it's okay. It's okay.
I actually asked the dietitians that work with our endocrinologists here at the hospital, and I was friends with the endocrinologists. We did a lot of things together with our pediatric patients, so we knew each other. And she gave me the number to her dietitian. So I wanted to ask them, do you tell people that when they eat carbohydrates, it raises their insulin and that makes things less, so that they need to stick to only having fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, fresh meat, and stay away from all these other things? They said, no, they do not tell them that because they know that people don't want to change their habits.
Yeah, that's a kind of interesting reason for not educating people on how to take care of their bodies.
Oh, it's crazy.
But before we move into that a little more, I want to ask one more question on the pharmaceutical end, and that is another medication aside from the blood sugar managing medications that you've mentioned that many diabetics I know are also being prescribed are a group of drugs called statins, usually given them to bring their cholesterol levels down. Tell me, how do statins work in your body, and is that really helping your long-term health or not?
All the studies that have been done that look at cardiovascular health, they've looked at LDLs. Okay, first, LDLs and VLDLs are not cholesterol. They are transport vehicles. I call them fat mobiles. It's a protein shell that carries cholesterol and triglycerides that are produced in the liver, they get out of the liver and circulate around to the body, that all the places that fat and cholesterol is used. And fat and cholesterol are vital to our life. Without every single cell in our body makes cholesterol. Every single cell in our body needs cholesterol to live. Our brain uses 20% of all the cholesterol our body uses. Our liver produces 80% of the cholesterol we use. Every single cell needs it. It's so vital that they have two different ways of getting it. And this is going to go right back into statins. I'm not squirreling here. There's two ways they can get it. Either they make it, or they can put more receptors on the outside and bring it in from the outside because they need it to live. The key is, and I'm not going to get real scientific, but the key is when you eat food, every single cell in your body, except red blood cells because they don't have a nucleus, but every single cell, what they do is they produce this thing called reductase. It's a protein called reductase. And that's what they need, because with reductase, they can take the food you eat, it binds to that reductase. Once that binds, it causes a chemical reaction. And I swear, I'm not going to get big in this. The one key is when they have that reaction, it produces a substance called mevalonate. Mevalonate is huge because from mevalonate, you make all these other things that the cell needs to live. It makes what's called isoprenoids. So mevalonate makes cholesterol, makes vitamin K, makes coenzyme Q10, makes dolichos, and makes all these things that the cell has to have to live. Okay. If it does not, if it needs more cholesterol for whatever, which we use cholesterol for everything. I mean, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, vitamin D, cortisol, everything is made out of cholesterol. So everybody telling the people cholesterol is bad is not the nicest thing for them to be telling people. So what happens is, so you have this mevalonate, it's making all these things that makes the cell live. All of a sudden, you take a statin and a statin goes in there and it clogs up that reductase. So it doesn't work. So now the cell says, wait a minute, I don't have any reductase, so I can't make it mevalonate. So I can't make cholesterol and I can't make any of these isoprenoids. It's dying. The cell is dying. And so it says, okay, I need more reductase. And that's what all the studies show. When this happens, the cells increase the reductase production. It also puts more receptors on the outside of the cell. So when you put a statin in to clog it, yes, your LDLs are going around in the blood. It's bringing the LDL, bringing the cholesterol from the LDLs into the cell. However, now the cell's sitting there saying, well, okay, now I've got cholesterol, but I don't have any of these other isoprenoids. And the cell dies. So every single cell, you're killing it on purpose by giving it a statin. The way statins were first found was over in Japan. They were looking at statins and cancer, and they realized that statins were killing cancer or cells a lot like cancer is. But a drug company in Texas found out about it, and they said, whoa, look at this. One of the adverse effects of statins is it's lowering the LDL. Why don't we tell everybody LDLs is causing all these cardiovascular disease and we can sell more statins? And since they've done that, you see all kinds. I mean, there's over 70 different adverse effects with statins. And you see, and it's everywhere. Some people get foggy head because it's killing the cells in your brain. Some people get cardiovascular disease because it kills the heart. It kills the lungs. It starts killing muscle. Muscle is a big one when it goes in there. It starts killing the cells of muscle. So a lot of people are complaining about muscle pain and all these other things. And that's why. And the key is because they're trying to bring your LDL level down. No studies have ever shown that high LDL levels are cardiovascular disease. What they do is whether it's high or whether it's low, doesn't matter. But if your triglycerides are high and your HDLs, which is your good cholesterol, if those are low, that's what increases the chance of cardiovascular disease. If it's the opposite and your triglycerides are low and your HDLs are high, that's cardioprotective. Well, the way you quit raising your triglycerides is quit eating all these carbohydrates that we're eating all day long. That's making the insulin, that's making all that. If you quit doing that and you increase your fat and cholesterol intake, HDLs are made in the intestines. The only thing they've ever found that increased HDLs is increased fat and cholesterol intake and resistance training, but build more muscles.
Exercise, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And cardiovascular, that doesn't do it. That's great for the heart. It's there's a lot of things about walking and everything that's very good for the lymphatic system. Has nothing to do with weight loss. Weight loss is keeping your insulin levels low so you can burn that fat back out of the fat cells. That's where that comes from. So, but it all goes together when you work out. And I don't mean go out there and power lift, just walk is all you really need to do, and just try to work more and more each day, each week, whatever. It's wonderful for you. But anyway,
Yeah,
so that's
well,
that. So
yeah, and I really appreciate that because I think a lot of people don't realize that how statins work and the fact that they actually like shut down the production of healthy cholesterol that your body needs, which can be
and
made
everything else.
mostly in the liver. Yes,
And
and
coenzyme Q10 and vitamin
yeah, it
K and
does
everything.
because cholesterol is a precursor for a lot of your hormones to be produced,
Yep.
a lot of different essential functions in your body. So it's cholesterol itself is not the bad boy here.
Not at
And the
all.
cholesterol that your body makes inside of itself is the safe cholesterol. It's the one that does not push cardiovascular disease. So I think it's important to understand that every time we look at drug solutions, we're also creating other problems. Like
Yep.
no drug comes without problems.
Oh,
And I think
oh.
any pharmacist will tell you
Yeah,
that.
and people think that there's only like, oh, there may be 5 or 6 adverse effects. No, 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 no. With oral Tylenol, that's true. It's the safest drug on the market. Oh, maybe 4 adverse effects. IV Tylenol is different, but almost any drug you get out there is going to have 30 or 40 different adverse effects. And then when you talk
Absolutely.
about like the GLP-1 agonists and statins and diabetic
Absolutely.
medications, you're talking about over 70, 80, 100 different adverse effects because it affects everybody differently, but it affects everybody
Yes.
in the wrong way.
Yes. It's so interesting that God has given us some really great resources for helping us with our blood sugars and our health at every level in our body that have nothing to do with pharmaceuticals. And I just want to spend a few minutes looking at like what are some of the things that you have seen that help our bodies when it comes to things like sleep, exposure to sun, drinking water. Yeah, tell us just a little bit about that. We have about 5 minutes here, so
Uh, yeah. So keep it short, Steve. Okay, we are talking about well, walking is one thing. We were just talking about
okay.
walking. Walking is so important mainly because of your lymphatic system. It helps clear. If you don't walk, you don't move your lymphatic system, which means you're keeping a lot of toxins and things like that in your body. So the only way you do it is walk, and that helps pump that out. That's just one thing. Sunlight. We are discovering so many things about sunlight now with all the different, and it's not just for heat and light that we've been seeing. The rays themselves, the ultraviolet rays, that's what stimulates our vitamin D, which is the most important way of getting it. We need sunlight. It's going in there, finding out about the red light on the eyes, on the brain. These rays, they're finding out they're actually going inside our organs, and it's stimulating our organs to help them be healthier. I mean, new things are coming out all the time. That's what's crazy. A lot of people, science acts like, oh, doctors and scientists are so smart. It's like, all we're doing is trying to figure out what God already gave us. So we've got a body here. We're trying to figure out that, oh, we discovered a new thing. Aren't we smart? It's like, no, God was smart. You're just trying to figure it out. And then what they do is they come up with a little idea they think might work until something says, no, that wasn't right. And then you come up with a new idea. But walking is so important. Sunlight is so important. Sleep. There's so many things that happen while you sleep. This, just like I was talking about the lymphatic system, how that's what gets a lot of your toxins and everything out of blood. They accumulate in there. And then as you walk, it helps pump that out. The brain has a glymphatic system, does the same thing. When you sleep, it's pumping all that, because we have chemical reactions going in our body constantly. I mean, they're going on right now just like crazy. But you don't clear them until you sleep. When you sleep, now you stimulate the glymphatic system. That helps pump all the toxins out of your brain. So that's one thing. Sleep is when you do all the rebuilding. Growth hormones is stimulated then. So that's when you're rebuilding all your muscles. So like if you're doing resistance training or anything, lifting heavy things, you're going to tear your muscles up. But then when you sleep, that's when your body goes back and does all the repairing. So there's so many things. There really is. There's books written on it. But clearing the brain, making it healthier, clearing the body, making it healthier. So people who say, oh, I can get by on 4 hours of sleep at night. No, you may think you can, but you're going to be foggy headed like crazy. You're not going to be, you're going to get sick is what you're going to do. You need that 7 to 9 hours is really a good amount. Basically, you sleep for every 1 hour that you're up for 2 hours, basically, but that's what you need. And water is the other thing. Water is so important. People are taking this too far, though. I mean, you'll see a little, 5'2" girl carrying a gallon jug of water saying, I got to drink this today. No, you do not. You do need water. Dehydration is a thing. It's a true thing. And when you have enough fluid, you actually can help your body function better. But the amount you need in general is take your ideal body weight, not your actual body weight. So if you weigh 260 pounds and you should be 180, take the 180, okay? Ideal body weight divided by 2, and that's the number of ounces you should be drinking every day, just as maintenance of water. If you drink a diuretic, anything with caffeine, anything with sugar in it, and let's see, caffeine, sugar, and alcohol.
Yep.
Which is what most people drink all day long. Something with caffeine, something with sugar, something with alcohol all day long. So it's diuretic, meaning you're peeing more, so you actually make yourself worse.
Yeah.
So that maintenance fluid is of water or unsweet coffee, unsweet tea. If you have one of these other drinks, you need to have the additional amount to display us what that's causing you to pee out. In general, those are general guidelines, but so water, sleep, walking, sun. I mean, it's so important. It's not confusing. It's like, okay, what did our great grandparents do? Do that. Let's just do that. Get out in the sun. Don't lather ourselves with all these chemical sunscreens, because they've got everybody scared of. They have people scared of bacteria. We couldn't live without bacteria. Bacteria is so important. They have sunscreens. Oh, let's stop all that sun rays getting in us because we don't know what they do. It causes cancer.
Now,
everything is salesman.
Yeah, I think there's actually some research showing now that lack of sunshine actually increases your risk of getting cancer.
I would believe that 100%.
Yeah, we do need sunshine. But before we close here, I want people to know that you also have a free gift for them. And it's a bonus chapter from your book, Your Plate is Your Fate. Tell us just a little bit about what they get when they get that bonus chapter.
Yeah, that was a chapter when I was writing the book. I felt like since I was a pharmacist, I really wanted to teach people what diabetic medications were, how they work, to let them understand these work by making your insulin levels higher or making your cells more sensitive to insulin, which is adding to the problem. So I wanted to put that in there. So I cut down because there's only the six categories of drugs now, which only used to be two. But so I typed that up, and then I got looking at it before I went to, started publishing. I thought, people don't have diabetes, which most people do, but they may not even care about this chapter. So I
Yeah.
went in and took it out. But now I'm offering, if anybody wants it, I can definitely give that to them, just so they can understand. And that's really what I want them to see is how they work, because all of them are making us worse.
Yeah, I think that's a really great resource to understand better what's going on with a lot of these pharmaceuticals. So that link for that free chapter is in the description right below where you're watching this video. So you can just go ahead and click on there, and Dr. Steve will be happy to send that over to you. He also has a podcast called Simple Healthy Choices for Weight Loss. So there are a
Yep.
number of different ways that you can come in contact with him. Some of his contact information is also below in the description. And Dr. Steve, I just want to say thank you so much for coming today to share with us your passion and enthusiasm for moving away from medications and moving towards the things that God designed would really
Yep.
help us with our health and with
Yep.
healing. So thank you so much for being with us here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Yes, it has been fun. And remember, health is wealth, and it comes by choice, not by chance. Thank
That's
you
right.
for being here with us today, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.